Jack Smith's January 6th Trump report is released. Biden makes his final acts as president. And will Trump save TikTok? That and more on this week's America Uncovered headlines. Welcome to America Uncovered. I'm Chris Chappell. We're just hours away from Donald Trump's inauguration, which will coincidentally fall on Martin Luther King Jr. Day. I can just picture Trump's speech. He had a dream, such a big, beautiful dream. Some call it the best dream. I've had better. All the preparations are nearly complete for the inauguration. Many of Trump's appointments face confirmation hearings this week, which went the same way every confirmation hearing goes. Members of the opposite party grill them over everything, while members of the same party basically toss them softballs. Trump's official presidential portrait has been released, and he's really leaning into the supervillain thing. I guess years of legal warfare and a couple of assassination attempts will do that to a guy. Maybe Project 25 wasn't an exaggeration. But one person who definitely won't be attending the inauguration is Special Counsel Jack Smith, who officially resigned from the Department of Justice. Smith, who looks like me if a fortune teller just told me the exact date and manner of my untimely death, will get something of a last laugh. U.S. District Judge Eileen Cannon allowed Smith to release his January 6th report on Trump. Along with the report, Smith released a statement insisting he was sure Trump would have been convicted of election interference. So if Trump wasn't reelected and Smith had just a few more measly years to build the case and find the right jury, then Trump would have definitely been convicted and potentially received no punishment, just like in his so-called hush money case. It's good to be president-elect. Smith, one for the road, who looks like me after staying awake for 6 straight weeks so I don't get murdered by Freddy Krueger, was also allowed to release his January 6th report, but only that one. His report on Trump's alleged mishandling of classified documents will remain sealed for now, though prosecutors are making arguments to Judge Cannon over releasing it as well. Which is interesting because of all the cases against Trump we analyzed, the classified documents one was the only one that seemed to have actual merit. But it wasn't very sexy, so no one paid much attention to it. Although I'm sure the cries of "Biden did it too" didn't help. But hey, the game isn't over yet. If Smith truly wants to play some hardcore 4D chess, he could just wait 4 years and give the classified document report to Trump, tell him it's classified, and wait for Trump to improperly store it. Then, with a few years to build the case and find just the right jury, Trump will be convicted and probably receive no punishment. Speaking of people getting arrested, several burglary suspects were arrested in Los Angeles area fire zones, including a suspect dressed like a fireman. Is there no bottom to the depths of human depravity? Authorities say looting will not be tolerated. Wait, California's actually arresting people for theft again? Nature is healing. Well, human nature. Nature might need a little more time. And after the break, Biden's last week in office. Welcome back. This was President Joe Biden's last full week in office, and it was a busy week for the outgoing commander-in-chief. Biden signed a quote-unquote ambitious executive order to bolster clean energy resources for AI data centers and facilitate the expansion of AI infrastructure. Part of it includes the Department of Energy and Defense opening up federal land for data centers and AI development offices, while imposing requirements and safeguards on AI developers that use federal lands. Which is probably good because the last thing we want is machines taking over our jobs. Although I don't have to worry about that since I myself am a machine. Biden also forgave student loans for 150,000 more borrowers, bringing the total number of loans he forgave up to 5 million, despite his battles with the courts. Biden, like most presidents, leaves behind a complex legacy. Besides fighting to help relieve student loan debt, he also fought to pass protections for consumers. But at the same time, he faced criticism for the manner in which the U.S. pulled out of Afghanistan, the border crisis he spent the majority of his one term ignoring, and pardoning his son Hunter after he said he wouldn't, for his crimes against poor, sweet, no longer innocent Matt. So farewell, Dark Brandon. We'll always have the memories and the memes. And as he rides off into the sunset, choosing to end his presidential campaign himself, and definitely not because he was forced out by his own party, who installed a replacement instead of holding a democratic election, we'll always have his immortal words.
I was going to put him...
Well put, Mr. President. Well put. Who touched my heart? Yes, you did. Something else Biden was criticized for was not doing enough to end Israel's war with Hamas that devastated Gaza. But a reported breakthrough has been made, and the Israeli Security Cabinet has approved a ceasefire and hostage deal that would end the fighting, for now, and included the release of Israeli hostages and Hamas prisoners. It now awaits final approval by the full cabinet, which hasn't happened as of this recording. Biden is claiming credit for this deal as he's been working towards it for months, but Trump is taking credit since his Middle East envoy Steve Witkoff met with Netanyahu in what's been called a tense meeting and pressured him to accept compromises necessary to agree to a ceasefire before the January 20th presidential inauguration. According to Israeli journalist Ben Caspit, this deal is reportedly very similar to one Netanyahu was presented by the Biden administration back in May that Hamas accepted in July, which Netanyahu initially rejected. However, the incoming Trump administration is reportedly applying more pressure on Israel to accept it. What does that pressure look like? No one seems to be sure exactly, but this might have something to do with it.
If those hostages aren't back, I don't want to hurt your negotiation. If they're not back by the time I get into office, all hell will break out in the Middle East. Can you elaborate? And it will not be good for Hamas, and it will not be good, frankly, for anyone.
Some have compared this to American hostages being released by Iran on January 20th, 1981, moments after Ronald Reagan was sworn in as president. Well, this is certainly one way to honor Jimmy Carter's memory. Now, a ceasefire doesn't necessarily mean an end to the conflict. But should the war actually end, the Israeli hostages will be overjoyed, getting to reunite with their families. The citizens of Gaza will be relieved to no longer have bombs constantly decimating their communities. And the pro-Palestinian protesters will be absolutely confused that the person they may need to thank for giving them what they've been demanding for over a year is Donald Trump. If, whom many of them called literally Hitler, ended what they call literally a genocide, they may just melt their brains. Literally. Speaking of things that melt your brain, TikTok. The Supreme Court has upheld the TikTok ban law, meaning that legally speaking, TikTok's parent company ByteDance must now either sell TikTok or American companies that host the app will be penalized starting on Sunday, January 19th. But Biden has said that he won't enforce the TikTok ban, leaving the fate of the app to Trump, which might explain why the CEO of TikTok is attending Trump's inauguration. I sense he might want to talk to Trump after class, as it were. Now, if you're watching this on or after January 19th, I don't know if the quote-unquote TikTok ban began because what you're watching is a recording of me in the past, since that's how recordings work. But even though Trump was the first to initially try to ban TikTok with an executive order that Biden almost immediately rescinded when he came to office, Trump now has a different tune.
I have a warm spot in my heart for TikTok because I won youth by 34 points. There are those that say that TikTok had something to do with that.
So maybe Trump will save TikTok. Maybe he'll use it as a bargaining chip with China. After all, he just had a phone call with Chinese leader Xi Jinping. It was a very good phone call. 4 more years of that. All I know for sure is that if Trump does save TikTok, I know what the new viral dance craze will be. You got to admit, it's sketchy. And in my ongoing attempt to talk about things YouTube considers too controversial by hiding them in gaming content, check out this episode about Marvel Rivals and what it says about unrelenting hunger and OnlyFans. Click here and let me know what you think. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. Thank you for watching America Uncovered.